Welcome everyone, and welcome to my presentation about the role of citizens in trustworthy AI in smart cities. So I'm Anthony, I'm professor at the business department of the University of Namur and part of the Namur Digital Institute. So what is the Namur Digital Institute? It's a set of more than 150 researchers related to digital technologies. We focus on that for a variety of perspectives, for instance, legal perspective, like the CRIDS, or computer science perspective, like PRECISE. I'm part of the Minded Research Center that focus on this aspect from a managerial perspective. So we are trying to bridge basically the IT and business elements from a managerial perspective. So as you can see here on the slide, we work on digital strategy, decision support, and process management. And within NADI, we focus on 8 teams that have been identified as strategic by the members of the NADI. You can see here artificial intelligence, of course, co-creation, the software development, digital education, and smart cities, which is the team, transversal team in which all of the research centers are working on that I will focus on today. But first of all, what is a smart city? So a smart city is basically a city where you can find innovative solutions in a variety of areas such as ecology, economy, mobility, public service, cultural living. And technology can be used as an enabler to provide solutions in these domains. Typically, you have a variety of technology that you can use, such as sensors, such as location-based data, or such as artificial intelligence, in which I will focus on today. Maybe important thing to mention is that not all smart cities use digital technologies. You have more and more cities that use more sustainable solution or even collective intelligence solution and do not mobilize technology. But in the context of this presentation, I will focus on the technological aspect. First of all, as we focus on AI, some examples of how you can use AI in cities. We can use AI in mobility, for instance, to do predictive monitoring of the problems in the streets. We can do traffic management to avoid congestion, for instance. We can detect distracted drivers through computer vision, for instance. We can use AI in environment, so we can have waste sorting robots, smart bin system. We can have waste monitoring through data, predictive garbage collection to have process efficiency. And with the rise of ChatGPT, you probably know a lot about these chatbots that are more and more popular, but we can have these conversational agents that interact with the citizens of the city to provide them more clarity about their service. They can also be used as interface to the data that is collected by the city. So these were quickly 3 examples, but what is mostly important is that all of these examples, all of AI-based applications in cities are mostly following regular pattern, regular architecture. You can see this on the slides. Typically, there are 4 main layers under the smart city domain. First of all, there is the data collection layer, which are often the IoT devices, the sensors that collect the data into the city. Then there is the big data layer where the data is captured, stored, and analyzed. Above this, you have the AI layer where we can use this data to fuel the AI technologies, which are diverse. It's not the point of the presentation here, but you can use machine learning algorithm or NLP, such as the example of the chatbot I just showed you, to deliver value. And then with this AI layer, you can provide added value to several domains. You can see here again, healthcare, energy, living, environment, mobility, and so on. The problem with this typical architecture, which is the typical architecture you can see in any city using AI for smart city services, is that citizens are often passive users. So they are simply consumers of this architecture, so they benefit from the different services from the city without having a big say in it. The key problem with that is that it can lead to a lot of trust issues. Citizens, and it has been reported in research, tend to trust less AI-based services in which they don't have control or in which they don't have participated into the design. There are already some solutions that emerge to tackle this. So for instance, you can have cities that have communication campaigns towards the citizens to show that the AI solutions are trustworthy, that they have been trained on a reasonable set of data, that they do not process personal data for the citizens. But recent research from colleagues of the University of Antwerp, Björn Claesen, for instance, showed that these communication campaigns are not enough. They are not enough to increase the trust of citizens. So that leaves us with the question, what can we do? What can we do to improve the trust of citizens? And my proposal is in this presentation is to show 3 ways in which citizens can be participants in the smart city architecture in different layers, you will see. In fact, this tension between citizens as passive users and citizens as participants is an old debate in the smart city literature. When the smart city concept emerges, you had these big private sector actors such as Siemens, Microsoft, Cisco that try to sell these ready-to-use smart city services to different cities. And this led to a lot of problems because these ready-to-use services were not adapted to the needs of the different cities, and it led to a lot of failures being reported in the literature. And so different streams in the literature emerge where citizens this time are not passive users in the smart city, but they are participants. They actively decide and monitor which type of smart city services they deploy. And in the context of AI, I would argue that this is particularly important. So now I will go into 3 ways in which citizens can have an impact in smart city services. First way is on the data collection layer. Citizens, I would argue, can access the data that are collected by the IoT through open data mechanisms. In this way, and research has also shown that by seeing on the data on which the AI-based smart city services are trained, it can have a positive impact on the trust of citizens. So there, I would argue that citizens can be not only smart cities service consumer, but open data consumers, and that there is transparency on the data that are used to train the AI-based services. Of course, the problem with this is that these open data portals, we have a lot in Belgium and at EU level, they are not often used by citizens. Citizens tend to not really go on these portals. So there is a variety of solutions to tackle this. One way forward that we worked on with colleagues would be to use, for instance, gamification mechanisms on these open data portals to make citizens access more easily the open data services. You can see here from the open data portal of Namur, we suggested that there is a quiz on the opening page of the portal so that the citizens can answer a question. If they get it right or wrong, they can then access the data to understand the logic behind the question. There are, of course, other alternatives such as providing visualization or dedicated apps. The second way in which citizens can be participants in the smart city architecture would be to have citizens as sensors. So to involve citizens this time, not only as data consumers, but as data providers, enabling them to provide data on which the smart city services were based. For that, a little example that was used in the city of Ghent, if I'm not mistaken, which is the Smart Citizen Kit, which was used for a research project, where citizens had this kit and they could collect data related to environment, related to pollution, and send this data to their city. Of course, it was helpful for the city because they had better information about the pollution, the sound pollution as well into the city, because they had a lot of these data points, these citizens that collected this data. But it was also immensely useful for the citizens because they could be educated about what exactly was data, and they could be educated about the active role that they can have in it. So I would argue in the second point that citizens can provide data for the smart city services, and by providing this data, they can be better aware about the underlying architecture of the smart city services. Last element in which citizens can have an impact would be to consider citizens as democratic participants. So enabling them to decide which type of smart city service application are deployed into the city. So simply letting them decide, okay, should we invest in AI-based services in energy, in living, or in none? For that, a lot of examples exist, of course. I would emphasize the participation platforms that are often used at local level, where citizens can submit some ideas, react on other ideas, and discuss on these dedicated participation platforms to have a democratic say on the technological choices of the city. Of course, this can be done online and offline, of course. And to close the loop on the discussion about AI, I would argue that AI as an AI-based services can also be used to enhance the participation focus of democratic participation. We have worked recently in a paper with colleagues Bono-Rossello, Claraval, and Castillo on several ways we can use AI to enrich the interactions of citizens to make them more constructive, for instance. You can see here, I invite you to check the paper if you're interested about it, but there are 6 main ways we can use AI to enhance citizen participation. For instance, providing individualized feedback that would enable citizens to give better constructed ideas through, for instance, interacting with a conversational agent. You can have recommendations tools to recommend similar ideas for citizens to put them in connection with each other. And you can have, for instance, analysis tools that would help the cities to look broadly what are the big themes that are used and discussed on the platform. Of course, it raises a lot of ethical, technical, and legal questions, but it's more for opening the discussion about AI-based participation. So I thank you very much for your attention. I would be happy to answer questions. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn if you want to have more information. The goal of this presentation was simply to open the discussion about 3 ways we can have citizens as active participants. There are, of course, other ways, but I would be happy if this presentation can influence some other ways to be developed and discussed after. So thank you very much for your attention.